And with me today is DJ Cole. So DJ Cole, can you tell us a little bit about what you do in Cisco and some about this industrialized access points?
Sure, I'm part of the industrial IoT group, and we basically take Cisco access point technology and we put that in an industrial form factor, right? So places where you just can't put a normal indoor AP or a enterprise outdoor AP, we kind of package that, make it a little bit more industrial as you see here, right? So kind of introduce you to some of our lineup. So this is our current IW9160 family of APs. We have the IW9167E, which is kind of the top of the line premier 4x4 3 radio outdoor access point. We have an integrated antenna version of that, so the 9167i. And then we sort of go down to the 2x2 products that are a little bit more specialized. We have the IW9165D, which is a built-in directional antenna with some external antenna ports on a second radio. And then we have the 9165E, which is kind of like the flagship small form factor AP. That's really meant for kind of smaller industrial spaces where space is a premium. You're probably running on battery power in some cases when you deploy this. But kind of the combination of all of them is very versatile where you want to deploy, right? So our customers are a little bit more niche on how they want to integrate our products into it. But in the end, they really want just the same Cisco experience that they have with the enterprise APs. So yeah, that's kind of the intro.
Awesome, thank you. And okay, so you're saying that one is for drawers. So you mean customers are gonna put it on a desk or vehicles?
Yeah, so it's mostly made to be integrated into side of something, right? So when we think about like a factory in AGVs, this one was really designed to be used on AGVs, right? So all of these kind of run in different modes, right? So you have your typical AP mode. Depending on the product, we also support workgroup bridge mode, which is a big thing for a lot of our customers, especially when they want to deploy it in those specialized environments. And then we also support our special sort of technology that extends Wi-Fi that we call Cisco Ultra Reliable Wireless Backhaul, or CURB for short. So there's a little bit of differences depending on which PID, but most of these do supporting those three technologies. So this one specifically, right, we designed this for AGVs to be put on board more as a client, right? So, we do call it an access point, but we do call it also a wireless client. So, it really wasn't made to necessarily be an AP, although it can be, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we really meant this to be a client, right? So either in curb mode or workgroup bridge mode, we intended that to be put inside the vehicle and connect that vehicle to the wireless infrastructure.
So today you can order them as curve and Wi-Fi, and when are you available to use? What software code do you need in your 9800?
Sure. So we had this one for the while. So this one you can order in all three of those different modes. Even though you can buy it in all three of those modes, it's actually very simple to switch in the field, right? So it's just one command. There's no like upgrading a new image or anything. You basically just say, you ordered this in AP mode, but you made a mistake and you want it in curb mode. One command and it's in curb mode. So this one does all three modes. The 9167i only does AP, so that's pretty simple. One of the new things about the 9167i kind of recently, 17.14.1 introduced support for AFC. And we have all the compliance done for that. So now if it's ready to go. So if you plug this into your network and you're in the US and you have AFC set up on your controller, you'll get your 6 gigahertz radio to come up and start serving 6 gig clients. In that sense, 9167E is also ready to go. We're just waiting on final compliance there. We expect that in July. And as soon as we get that compliance, we'll turn that on and the AFC service will allow you to use that as well. In addition to these two, that's kind of the new part that we're talking about here at the show today. So both of these, when they were introduced, they only supported curb, and this one supported curb and workgroup bridge. Now, starting in 17.14.1, we also support them in AP mode, right? So we had a lot of customers ask for that, right? So while we intended these to be clients, some customers came to us and saying, we want a really small form factor AP that we put somewhere that's a little bit specialized, and we want to basically serve clients off that, right? So you can buy these in AP mode. As long as you run the controller with the 1714, it'll come up. The 9165D is included in that as well. It is a little bit more specialized because of the directional antenna. It's more for those focus spots if you want to use that. But you're also more than able to just take turn the directional of that radio off and use the external ports on it and put some omnis. That way, if you want to deploy a very straightforward outdoor AP in a little bit more industrialized or rugged environment, you can do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
So can you tell us about the antennas? Because today, recently AFC allow us to use external antennas for outdoor APs. So this is already ready to go. And can you tell us about the ports and the AP?
Sure. That brings up a really good point, right? So yeah, I mentioned that in 1714, AFC's all ready to go. So if you connect this to the controller today, and you had, one of the big things, of course, you need a GPS antenna on it for location. But once you plug that in, if you do that to a controller today, it's gonna give you a deny message, unfortunately, basically saying, hey, we don't have a compliance ready yet. But as soon as we get that, it'll work. But you bring up a good point. So right now we have a fairly limited antenna selection for 6 gig, because one of the big points on 6 gigahertz is you do need a SIA compatible antenna plugged into those 6 gigahertz ports. If you don't have that SIA chip in the antenna, unfortunately the ports won't come up. So right now we have really two versions of the same Omni antenna. But what we're actually introducing now at the show is sort of a directional panel antenna for this AP. So we have customers come to us saying, essentially we want directional coverage, right? Omni's not cutting it. We want that focused coverage. So we're deploying a wide angle 60 panel antenna for this. It's basically, because this is a 4x4 radio, we wanted to have a 4x4 antenna for that, and that wasn't something we had in our portfolio right now. So we're introducing what we call the 9167E Wi-Fi stadium antenna. So it's a little bit wide angle. It's 30 by 70, and we're actually going to be marketing it in 2 different ways. One of them, of course, is the standalone antenna, but really what we're kind of most focused on is selling that antenna as a prepackaged unit with the AP, right? So when we get to having that type of antenna, we're going to have 9 antenna cables coming from the AP to the antenna, right? Mounting that would be sort of a challenge, because now you have to deal with all those cables, 8 for the data serving radios, and then 1 for the GNSS. So we're actually designing this antenna to effectively mount to the back of the AP. So it kind of comes as a packaged unit. You of course can mount that in the field, but it's much easier just to buy it from us. And in the factory, they assemble it, they put all the antenna connectors on, and then if you look sort of here in this rendering, you see the shroud. We actually put that shroud on there to kind of protect the cables and sort of hide them from an aesthetic perspective, right? Because you're typically going to be mounting this in places where you have more people present, and you don't want us to see all those cables, and then it just kind of hides them and provides some protection for them. So yeah, that's kind of the solution that we're looking at for that kind of high density Wi-Fi 6E coverage. And we plan on, this is orderable later this year, we're going to be shipping it later this year, and that'll coincide well with when we expect to have the compliance ready for 6E.
Awesome, thank you. So there's no excuse for anybody to put an IP indoor access point outdoor. And what happens if somebody does that just for...
Sure. So that's one of the kind of the learning curves that we have with 6E coverage, right? Because while in the past we've kind of designated our APs as indoor or outdoor, it wasn't the regulations were there, but it wasn't necessarily as stringent. Now, of course, with 6E, because we have those incumbents kind of in play, we're a lot more stringent with the regulations. So you're not able to take even if you have an AP that you could mount outside an enclosure, if it's an indoor AP, it has to stay indoors, right? So if you look at, for example, one of our enterprise 6E APs, you can't just put that in an enclosure and put it outside. So that's why we're really trying to come to market with those solutions for, a radio that is outdoor rated, is certified for that, does AFC. Of course, that means standard power only, right? There's no LPI mode on this, and then deploy that with an antenna that you can use outside.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.